Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Lonely Artist podcast. I'm your host, Ariane. And today I have a very special guest here with me, a really close friend whose last name apparently I don't know how to say off the top of my head, Patrick Zimmerman, who has over a decade of experience as a filmmaker and a creative director. His hands-on experience as a motion designer and VFX artist enable him to pretty effectively manage and communicate with teams of artists, and I can attest to this, that collaborate with Liminal House on independent films, documentaries, and commercial projects. So, Patrick, welcome to the show.
Hello, hello.
How are you
It's
doing?
I'm good, I'm good. It's very exciting to be here. We've talked about doing this for a minute, so
I
yeah,
know,
I'm,
since last
yeah,
year, actually, if
yeah,
you can
yeah.
believe it. But we finally managed to make it happen, and now I
Yeah.
get to keep you hostage and ask you all the questions.
All
And
right, all right.
that's it. There's nothing you can do about it. So,
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it.
so we're gonna start where I always start, and usually it's very similar because we're all artists. But how did you find your way through filmmaking and, get in the world of visual arts?
Hmm. Yeah, I found my way I would say at a younger age. Like I think I was let's see, I watched some movies. I was, oh God. Okay, I grew up watching. I grew up watching a lot of movies, like most people. But there was a certain point, probably around like 14, 15, whenever it like clicked that like people make these,
Yeah,
and like that you could do this, and so yeah, I just got really into it, and I think being homeschooled helped a lot, because I just didn't have a lot of like school demands. Like
right.
I won't get too into that, but it was just kind of a loose last few years of my high school education. So like from yeah, like 15 to 18, and I just watched a bunch of movies, and I started making some. I worked at a movie theater, and I used my first like couple paychecks to buy like a little digital camera, and was just making movies.
I love it.
And yeah, yeah.
That's so cool. Do you have like an earliest memory of a movie or a show that you saw and you were like, wow, like I really want to try this.
Yeah. Yeah, I think like the one that really stands out to me is Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind.
Great movie.
And yeah, the Michel Gondry movie. Yeah. So good, and really I think it's one of those where you can like see the craft. Not in the sense that I feel like it gets in the way, but there's just so much like just weird effects and practical things that they're doing that just like you can really feel the artistry in it, and I think that just
Yeah.
really stuck out to me as something, just something weird. And I saw it when I was 15, so it just really, it was a very impressionable time. So I think that left a big impression for sure.
That's so funny that you mentioned that because I feel like what I think about when I think about movies like Eternal Sunshine of a Spotless Mind, I feel like they feel like movies, whereas a lot of the movies that I've seen as of late feel more like, I don't know, the closest thing I could compare them to is like a commercial. I don't feel like I'm watching a
Mm,
movie, you know? Um,
yeah.
I don't know if that's something that you feel necessarily too, but
Yeah,
I would be
yeah.
interested to know your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean that's an interesting. Do you have like an example of like a recent movie you felt that way about?
I'm trying, I mean,
Am I allowed to ask you questions?
yes, of course, of course.
Okay,
I
cool.
mean, I feel like to an extent, the spectacle that like Marvel movies are, they're
Yeah,
fun,
yeah.
but they feel like a joyride, like a commercial,
Mhm.
like just
Mhm.
this like fast food almost. And it's
Yeah,
not that
yeah.
they're bad, like I'm sure there's a reason for them to exist, but when you go into a movie that feels like a movie, it feels like you're transported
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
another world. So
Yeah.
I guess that's what I mean by that. Um,
Mhm. Mhm.
and I missed
Yeah.
that about like the 90s. The 90s felt very like movie-esque to me. I don't know. I don't know why.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, definitely. I think there. I mean, there's a quality. I mean, Eternal Sunshine. The thing that sticks out to me, in contrast to like a bunch of Marvel stuff, is just how much we're in the psyche of like the characters, and that like in a very literal sense in that movie. But I feel like that happens in like the best movies just really like transport you into the like character's perspective and
Right.
experience. And I think, yeah, with all these, big flashy, like VFX heavy, like commercial Marvel stuff, like it's very yeah, it's just very, you're not getting that deep, especially as they get bigger and bigger with casts. It's like you're not spending any time with anybody, and
Yeah.
so like the storytelling feels like it's like, yeah, it's like good versus evil and it's just chaos, but there's no, it's, yeah, it's harder for them, I think, to go deep with people and let you
Yeah.
really get immersed in that story. So
For sure. I
yeah.
do, I agree. Maybe that's you hit on a point that's what I like the character exploration that we used to get, more
Hmm.
than a number of events that keep on happening throughout a period of time in a movie. And like
Yeah,
they
yeah.
happen and get resolved, or there's conflict and then they get resolved, but like we never sit down and just chill for a
Yes.
second. Like why are they doing
Yes.
this?
Right, 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 right. I don't know. It's like this might be a detour a little, but I think it's kind of related. I saw it wasn't the last Fast and the Furious movie, but it was the one before it. And those movies, I feel like, are in the same vein, right? Just
Yeah.
like like you're just in a car commercial and an explosion commercial. I don't know, like, but the we saw that movie in the what did they call it? Four it was like the 4DX experience or something. It
Oh,
was like
okay, yeah. Like with
it was like a
wind
regular, yeah,
and
yeah, and like
everything.
a chunk, like a group of every four seats is like on a little track, and it just kind of wobbles and shakes, and there's something at your feet that like sprays you with wind, and water like sprays out and stuff. Like it was a lot. And I feel like there's a scene, as you were saying, like, oh, that, just take a moment and chill. There is a scene kind of in the movie where they are like, it's like after the second act, and they're about to go like do the big final fight, and they're like regrouping pretty much, and they're taking a plane somewhere, and they're in this like quiet. First, they're in this like well kind of like regrouping after this fight. They're like, what do we do? We've lost, this is hopeless. And then they're like, no, we need to go to this place. And then it cuts to like a plane exterior of the plane flying
Yeah.
and the seats. And so we're in a quiet moment after this fight, and then
Hmm.
the cuts to the plane, and we're like all the seats just start moving for like a 5 second shot, and then it like we're in the plane and everything chills out again, and they're just talking again. And that feels like the like even in, if this is the direction that like like this the like cinematic experiences are heading, it's like even in these like quiet moments in these crazy movies, we're still going to be like interjected with
Yeah,
like
like
pay attention, like
yeah, so overstimulated by
yes,
things
yes,
happening. I mean,
right,
you just said that, your chair is moving. It is like an amusement park ride, pretty
yes,
much.
yes, yeah, yeah. And I feel like they're making like, if that gets more popular, they're just going to make things with that in mind first,
Yeah,
and it's going to just really start shaping the way those movies are.
for
But
sure.
yeah, I mean, at the same time, there's still some really great Eternal Sunshine
Yeah, for
esque
sure.
category movies being made, and that's hopeful.
I don't feel
So,
like they're gonna go away. Hopefully, we'll see. But
yeah,
it is interesting to realize like how much that like the attention economy has affected filmmaking and
yeah,
movies.
yeah, Mm-hmm.
Like trying to create films that cater to TikTok shorts too, and
Mm-hmm.
just, or I mean, TikToks are shorts, but you know what I
Yeah,
mean.
yeah. No,
Um,
totally, totally.
but
Yeah.
so, you discovered that filmmaking was something that you were into and that you were interested in making yourself. Did you always think of yourself growing up as creative, or was it kind of like something that came to be in your teens?
Yeah. I played a lot with like in general, I played a lot with like just various toys, Legos being kind of a big one. And I think that that certainly fostered a lot of like creativity, I guess. Just like but I would have like any toys I had, like there would just be like these like stories happening with stuff going on. So yeah, I think so. I think definitely playing a lot of like pretend and imagination, and I think all that stuff counts as
For
creativity. I think at the
sure,
time I
yeah.
wasn't, right. I wasn't like thinking about like, oh, I'm gonna make this into something, but I was like exploring storytelling and just like having a lot of fun, making stuff up. And yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and definitely storytelling is something that, affects, informs, and influences creativity and art.
Right.
So I would say the same thing, but sometimes I guess we don't necessarily associate it with it. We just associate it with like
Yeah.
imagination. But
Right.
what is creativity if it's not and if people imagining things?
Right, right, right. Well, it's like yeah, like I feel like we all or most people as children do imagine stuff and play and kind of create things in their minds and with their hands as well and stuff. But it's like I think maybe as you get older, I think like for me it was like, oh, I'm just channeling that same thing that I've been doing since I was a kid
Right.
into making a movie or whatever I'm working on. And yeah, I guess there are people who maybe just stop channeling that. I don't know. I hope not. I don't but maybe they're just not thinking about it as like their life. But
Right. And so, like, when you decided you liked filmmaking, did you immediately think, okay, that's what I'm gonna study, that's what I'm gonna pursue
mm,
professionally? Was it a conscious decision on your part?
yeah. Yeah, yeah. I think it was. And I I gotta say I have I disagree with my like parents on a lot of things, but I really value the like encouragement and support that they gave, as even at that young age. And so I think like they recognized my interest in it. And when I was thinking about, going to college and what kind of choices to make, that, was pretty much in mind as the focus. And studying film.
Right.
Yeah, so yeah, and they just were really supportive, which was really great because I think without that encourage, like if they were saying that's maybe not the best career or something like that, and being more practical about it, quote unquote, I think they that would have been a shift in how I
Right.
thought about it, but
Yeah.
I didn't have a lot of resistance in making that choice.
That's amazing. That's
Yeah,
pretty lucky because a lot of people don't
yeah,
necessarily get that. And then,
yeah.
going into university, possibilities are endless, especially at that young age. Did you
Hmm.
envision yourself like in a very specific way doing specific types of films, or were you just kind
Mm.
of open to exploring everything?
Yeah, yeah. So I went to a pretty big school, like relatively a pretty large school, and the opening like class in the film department, it was the radio television film department is what they called it, but the intro class that like all the like new students have to take was like 400 people. And so it was like a
Wow.
very a very large amount of people. And I've told this story, and friends of mine who had the same experience have almost told like the same story. So it's a very, like, we're all in there. Everyone was like the film kid at their school or their environment or whatever, and then they come here and the professor's like, who wants to write and direct movies? And like everyone raises their
Yeah.
hand, and
Oh my
it's just this
gosh.
like this kind of like air gets sucked out of the room that like,
Yeah.
well, I don't think we're all gonna do that. Like it's really sad, and you don't want to, you don't want to give up right away. But even the professor was sort of like you don't need to give up on that, but like it would be, while you're here in this environment, it would be really wise to explore other things in filmmaking that you're also passionate about, right?
Right.
And they were stressing a lot of the collaborative nature of filmmaking in general. So it was really just like, even when you're making your own thing, you're going to need people to help you, and vice
Right.
versa. And so, it was, I think that was kind of a big wake up call of like, well, what else do I like, or what else, do I enjoy about the process? And so, yeah, so for me, I was kind of, in school doing a lot of editing and starting to kind of play with some animation stuff. Nothing by hand. Even now, I don't draw, but all like computer animation and stuff. And and yeah, but career wise, sort of found myself heading into documentary more. Like I took a couple documentary classes and interned with a documentary film producer while still in school, and then my first job out of school was editing documentaries. So it was
Hmm.
it was very much like, this isn't, oh, like I'm gonna get into editing and I'm
Documentaries.
gonna get into
Yeah.
documentary, but yeah, it was like this sort of go with the flow kind of thing of the experiences I was having and the people I was meeting and stuff. And so that's what I did. Um, that's where I ended up after school. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's, it's it's very similar to, animation. I feel like everyone
Mm,
everyone goes into animation and says, yeah, oh, I want to be an animator or I want to be a character designer. And it's like
yeah.
for sure everyone wants to do the funnest part of it all, but there's
Right.
so many more positions and like moving parts for the process of creating an animation or a film. And I love that your teacher was like, let me humble you from day one.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It was a profound experience, very memorable for anyone who I know who had the same. Because like, whether they were in that class with me or not, it was like
Yeah.
that was, basically every semester they would do that, and it was, we all were just like, oh yeah, yeah, you had that happen, yeah, how'd that
Yeah.
feel?
What did you
you know.
discover like during that time when you kind of like go of the idea
Mm,
of exclusively, directing or creating films? Like,
hmm.
what was a surprising, like a positive surprise for you that you realized that you were good at within,
Yeah.
the process of filmmaking?
Fortunate, like I was saying, that like in high school, like before college, I was making a lot of films and experiments, and I had, a few friends that were really into film as well, at that age. And so going into school, I already knew I really enjoyed editing. That was like, a very kind of, yeah, just kind of clear thing that I really enjoyed about the process. And I don't know, it's interesting because I think I found myself, and this is different than a lot of other people who went to UT's film program, because if you start right away, you're kind of put in this like cohort with a bunch of um, with a bunch of fellow students, and y'all end up like hanging out a lot. You make
Right.
things, you work on things together. And I know, several of my friends are still close with those folks that they had that, but I transferred in partially because I was homeschooled. I went to another school first, and then I transferred to UT, and then I transferred into the major. And so I think I was like feeling kind of like behind as far as like community goes while I
Hmm.
was there. And so I ended up making just I didn't take like a regular kind of, oh, and then you take this class and then you take this class, and like I just bounced around a lot. I took these
Right.
like experimental film classes. I took, more documentary stuff and some random like After Effects classes, and I
Mhm.
kind of just put my little program together, on my own versus kind of following the kind of thing that you do when you start as a freshman, and which in some ways I'm really glad I did that. Um, and but it did mean I spent a lot of time alone, like just working on projects by
Yeah.
myself or with like
Right.
one or two people. Like I never made like a big short film while in school, like a thesis film that a lot of other folks had made, and like I never did something like that. I was just kind of making my own little things, and I think that I think that kept me in editing a lot, led me to like more experimental stuff, and definitely led me to like documentary filmmaking, just kind of in the by nature of bouncing around to the things that seemed interesting to me
Right.
while I was there. So yeah.
That's, it's such a like a common thing, especially like with things like film or animation
Hmm.
that requires such a big community around them. Yet we're all introverted and like you bouncing around and exploring things and then like finding yourself kind of like doing things on your own, I feel is super relatable to a lot of us. Like
Yeah.
I also never had like the biggest group necessarily.
Mm.
Um and I just kind of bounced around and enjoyed that as well. Uh,
Yeah.
but there are some challenges that come with that. Would you say like having done that, that created challenges for you professionally, like not networking perhaps as much as other people were that were following the like the regular structure?
Yeah, I think so. I think there were things that I didn't get a chance to learn until after that experience, until after college, and until I was like on. I think a lot of people were on each other's sets, and they were starting to kind of like get that. I mean, that experience is really valuable, and there's like, I mean, even down to just the words people use when they're on a film set and stuff. Like you're learning that in an environment where everyone's learning that, and I think for me, I I just wasn't doing a lot of that super collaborative stuff. And film is such a collaborative thing, and I think in a school environment, animation tends to not be as collaborative because you're all kind of working on your own little projects and
Right.
stuff. And so even that, the classes I was in there, it's animation does actually get to be incredibly collaborative, but it's so expensive for that
Yeah.
to like really exist, and so you're not going to find that really in that school environment all the time. And whereas production, you just literally can't make something without other people. And
Yeah.
so there were a lot of people, and documentary is a similar, like I could grab a camera and go interview someone or with one person, right? Like I was gravitating towards all the things that I needed as little people's help with as
Yeah.
possible. And I don't know if that was like just this weird like social anxiety like response to stuff. I think I just always felt like I don't know, like it'd be a burden to get more help, or it'd be just all these little limitations, or these ways that I kind of, I think, socially kept myself in this little
Yeah.
corner and just kind of embrace that, which, yeah, I mean, some okay outcomes from that. But I think like it's not necessarily like a regret or something, but I do feel like it's something that I'm like realizing the value of more as I get older, and I'm trying to like
Right.
not and not even feel like behind on it, but just kind of make up for lost time a little bit.
For sure. And I
Yeah.
mean, like you can, gather that community and network more and like find your community outside of school too. I don't think necessarily
Yeah.
that's the only place, but for sure in some aspects it can be helpful when you don't know anyone in the industry or you try to get your foot in
Hmm.
there. Um,
Yeah.
and so you're done with school and you're out in the world.
Mm. Mm.
What are the challenges you're facing? What are the things that you're experiencing that you're like pretty happy about now that you're out in the professional world at that age?
Yeah. Yeah. I I was saying earlier that I kind of went with the flow of things, and I think that's like a very for a little while that was like a motto of sorts in my mind. I was just like, like just jump on the next wave that like comes
Yeah,
your way, and like okay, I'm doing this documentary class, and then oh, there's an internship from the class that the professor sent out to everyone. I'll see if I can get that internship. Oh, I got the internship. Oh, so I'm just kind of jumping on the
yeah,
next opportunity, and then from that, I met the filmmaker that I worked with for the next like 2 years right out of school. Documentary filmmaker named Hector Galan, and he does a lot of projects for like PBS, and so it was like just that kind of, and this is why I think that was a motto for me, because I was like, oh, I just kind of went with the flow, and this really cool opportunity kind of shook out,
right,
and he was so independent, like he was getting shows that were going to broadcast nationally, but he was so independent that there was just a lot of opportunity for me, and he was like I think if you were just like, oh, I want to, like I know some editing, like I was just like a relatively proficient person technically, and I
right.
think that was really valuable for him because he had, been making films since like the I don't know, the 80s or maybe even earlier, and had was an editor himself, but had worked on tape a lot, and
I
like
see.
all
Yeah,
the technology changed, so he really needed that was the biggest gap, was just like a
right.
technical kind of person from like his brain and what he wanted to happen to like making it happen in like the software that we were using. So, and then also just getting to go on shoots and do all this stuff. So I mean, there were, yeah, really a very cool and unique opportunity. Again, really isolated, right? Like just
Yeah.
me and him, and sometimes another editor would be in the office, or his wife is like his producer. So like it
Hmm.
was a lot of times just the three of us, or four people, and just really small group of people making these long form documentaries for like two years or so, I think,
Hmm.
after school. So definitely a really cool experience, and just like a really unique one to get right out of school,
Yeah,
to kind
for
of have
sure.
work I was doing kind of be presented that way, which was really neat.
I think like that was definitely to your benefit to just go with the flow and just trust that whatever you jumped on was going to be something that would nourish you professionally and artistically.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of value to finding mentors. Would you consider that person a mentor to you as you were working with him?
Yeah, I think so. I think like the joke we would say sometimes is, and I think because it was such a small, like close environment, that I definitely learned a lot from him, and I think the joke we would say is that in some ways that time with him, like I learned more, like because it was so hands on, and so like, oh, we're actually making this like you know film that's going to be shown, and stuff, and so the stakes were all a lot higher. So
Hmm.
definitely felt like a continued kind of bit of film school, and also there was a lot of like motion graphics needs, and so that was like a big place for me where I like first started to like jump into that work,
Right,
and build out a portfolio of like motion graphics and animation stuff. And so all of it was just like, oh, there's a need, do this. There's a need for this, do
right.
this, and
A lot of
so yeah, it
practical
was.
stuff that, you were learning as you were going and honing
Hmm.
in on. And how did, you go from there to deciding or thinking about or even considering creating your own studio, Liminal
Mm.
House? How did you gain the courage, or was it something that kind of started slowly in a small project and then became something that you were trying to pursue and getting clients from it and, doing that
Hmm.
on your
Hmm.
own?
Yeah. I mean, the kind of summary of from like that work was kind of getting my feet in the water as far as animation and motion graphics go. But then there, I wasn't. I was technically I was freelancing while I was with Hector.
Hmm.
Like it was just this long, contract basically, but I would take other work here and there and kind of do other things. So I was, you know, technically self-employed in that time period.
Right.
Um, and then Nidhi and I, my partner, we were also had a little small business making wedding videos, and so there was a little bit of like, okay, like I'm in this, um, I don't know, this kind of like running my own thing. Like
Hmm.
I just kind of was doing small things that kind of were that level of independence and stuff. Um, but the big jump is that I nearly moved out to the Bay Area,
Hmm.
and I stayed with Hector to wrap up the project we were on, and then followed her out there and got a job at a marketing agency as like a motion graphics artist and editor, and so I was just doing a lot of that kind of work. And in a more client basis, like a
Right.
more kind of commercial work experience. And we let me see, we skip. Pandemic happens. Well, before that, I got laid off. Right, I got laid off from
Oh my
that job. So
gosh.
I was working there for like 5 years. That's where I met Josue, our mutual friend.
Right. Who's
And
also been on the show.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Um, um, the yeah, so I got laid off from this job, and at that point, I had this choice, and it's hard to know. It's like this go with the flow thing. I feel like I'm sort of like not souring on it. I'm just kind of like, I think trying to look back at like my career and be like, when did I make conscious choices
Yeah, it's
of
hard. It's
things,
hard.
like were there were there
I'm
moments where
I'm putting you on the
I made a
spot.
choice. No, no, no. This is like a general. This isn't even just right now. This is like a
Yeah,
general existential feeling. Is like you kind of just go with each opportunity,
right.
and you're like, I'm lucky, I have this. Like I'm
Yes.
gonna go. I'm gonna follow this,
Right.
and then at some point you kind of wake up and you're like, oh, I haven't made like a film in 6 years. I haven't done this dream of mine that I had
Hmm.
for so long, that I was pursuing when I went to school. Like tracing it is like, oh, I was like in school. At sometimes I was doing that, but I was also kind of going towards these other directions. And I'm not
Right.
like regretting this stuff, but it's sort of like, at what point do you say, okay, we've learned a lot of things, we've
Yeah.
gone with the flow a lot, and we need to like take it all in and be like, what do you want to do? Like,
Yeah.
what is like the goal?
And that's such a
And
hard
so
thing to like even
yeah.
question yourself and like, artistic professions are very, they can be stable, they can be, consistent, but they're also kind of not for a lot of it. And so taking a chance on yourself, because I would say the majority of us appreciate and pursue independence and doing our
Hmm.
own
Yeah,
things, but not
yeah.
a lot of us actually go through with it. And you're right. Like if I was being asked this, I'd be like, "Oh my God, like where do I pinpoint anything about 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 the things that I've been doing?" Um,
Right.
but yeah, like just taking that leap, I guess it was probably a lot of moments, not just one, where you were like, yeah, I want to do this. But perhaps, like, do you have any memory of like the early conception of it?
Yeah, yeah. The it's funny because starting it, and this is why I got sidetracked on the going with the flow thing, because starting the company felt like, it's hard to know if that was, I got laid off and the choice was, okay, like the agency that I worked with still has creative work. They just got rid of their whole creative
Right.
team, but they still have stuff coming up, and they're going to need someone, and I have a good relationship with them, and I can either be bitter about this, or you know build, maintain that bridge, and do my own, start my own thing, which I had been wanting to do and had thought about it.
Hmm.
And so, the flow being getting laid off, and like, okay, but like I had this idea kind of queued up in my mind, so I think I'll just jump with that now. I didn't consciously say I'm quitting and starting my thing.
Right,
I sort of got
right.
pushed into it, so it did kind of,
Yeah.
still feels sort of like that, you know, it's like on the line, I guess. But I think the moment where I was like, where I shifted is, well, I had this like panic attack, sort of anxiety attack,
As you do,
and
as like we all do.
yeah, yeah. Well, it was weird. It was like the Oscars and whatever. Like, I'm not trying to put the Oscars on a pedestal, but the Oscars had just been announced. The nominations had just been announced, I think, for the year, I think it was for the year 2020. So we are very close to a global shutdown, but
Yes.
not yet. And so these nominations had just come out, and I'm like looking. I'd just been laid off like 3 months before. I'm kind of scrolling through the short films that are being listed, like all these short films, the animated shorts, the fiction shorts, and I just this like just total anxiety attack, just
Oh yeah.
like what have you done, like
Yeah.
this was a dream of yours, and like you have abandoned this you've abandoned this dream.
I feel like we
And
all have that, like at some point or very often. Like I'm always like, what am I
yeah.
doing with my life?
Right. Totally. And so I think like it was just like a wake up call of like, okay, let's start putting in motion the ability to kind of get back on that track.
Mhm.
I feel like I learned a lot. I gained a lot of valuable experience technically and just relationally, like working with clients and all this stuff. You know,
Right.
I learned a lot in my detour from from making movies, but I certainly think I knew then that it was like I need to kind of make steps to shift back, and it took three even from then, it took 3 years of kind of just working on client work. A whole pandemic happened, and I
Right.
didn't realize I was unemployed for like 10 months because
Oh,
I was like, I don't know, I was just making things or
it's
reading
such a
news or
weird time.
fighting
Like,
with my family. Yeah, I don't
yeah.
know. It was a very weird time.
Yeah.
And I remember like when I got a gig, I like the last job I had, like paid work, and this is through Liminal House. The last like gig I'd had was in like February or March, and then the next one I had was like October, and so it was like this big gap of time where I did not quite realize I was
Yeah.
unemployed. I was like, oh, I was unemployed that whole time. I just didn't. I was very distracted,
Right, right.
and playing Animal Crossing. So
As you do. Like, what else? It
yeah.
was either that or making like sourdough bread or
Yes,
learning to
yes.
crochet. Like, what else do you do?
Yeah. I got really good at making those like Instagram AR filters.
Oh,
Like I just
yeah?
made a bunch of those in that period. So that was a real like creative output.
Nice.
But I also had a lot of political arguments with my family.
For
Um,
sure.
so, but yeah, the let's see, the so yeah, it took 3 years from that panic attack about making movies to like actually like taking time off and shooting a short film.
Right,
That was the first time I'd like written and directed something since college. So
right.
yeah, it was big jump.
Yeah,
But yeah, and I guess like that's not necessarily like it's all Liminal House, but that feels like maybe like that feels like kind of this return to that dream. And then from there, and because we had been working on our animated film, the Rajas film, we'd been
mhm,
working on that, and had started to kind of take that more and more seriously with like working on getting it finished. And so I think like shooting that short film, you know, making a lot of progress on the animated film, um, and starting to take on a lot of like VFX work from
right,
other filmmakers and stuff. And so really and more motion graphics for documentaries and things like that. Like just really kind of doing a shift away from the types of clients I was pursuing from these like life science like marketing clients,
right.
to which like I'm still like give me a call. I'll still do that work
Yeah,
gladly.
you gotta
But I'm
eat.
not acting. Yeah, yeah, exactly. And I do like I built up like 8 years of experience
Of
animating
course.
DNA. So it's like I'm relatively good at doing this and understanding these clients, but I'm not actively pursuing them at this
Right.
point. And I think that even more than starting Liminal House, I think making that choice was like the bigger leap, right? Like,
Right.
yeah, yeah.
Letting go of like that kind of security, and
Yeah.
and betting on yourself pretty much, you know?
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
What is something that you wish you knew back then, that you now
Mm.
know, perhaps when you were having the anxiety attack, or perhaps, like I
Yeah.
feel that so much because when the pandemic started, like
hmm
the beginning of the year where when the pandemic started, I decided to pursue art professionally. And I was like, okay, I'm doing art professionally. And then the pandemic happened, and I
Yeah.
was like, I am just the biggest, dumbest idiot in
Oh
the
no.
world. Like, and I had a huge anxiety attack about it. And I feel like
Uh,
now I wish I had told myself things that I didn't, obviously. So what
yeah,
would be
yeah.
something that now you know that you wish you knew when you
Mm,
decided
mm.
on it?
Well, I want to hear yours too. But I'm just curious what you would have told yourself then. What would I have? Yeah, that's I hadn't yeah, I haven't thought about that too much. I think I would I think this feeling of being like late, like of being like, oh, I missed all this time, or like I think that was part of where the feeling was, right? It was like, oh, like this is years of films I could have been making,
Mhm.
or connections I could have been making, or things, I don't know, just like all that stuff is just what's kind of just like drowning you. And I think the reality that I feel now is that it's just like it's not it wasn't too late then, it's not
Mhm.
too late now. Like I think there's just there's so much, and also just that there's a lot that I gained from having gone in those other directions that I'm bringing to this work now, that I wouldn't want to trade. So yeah, I think it's just like stop feeling like it's too late, and I think when you feel like, oh, you're too late to something, it'll also keep you from taking the steps you need to take, like from taking those like first
Yeah,
steps, because you're just like already defeated, right? and
right.
and so I think just like having to, and that's part of probably why it took 3 years for me to actually do it, because I think I had to like then realize, hey, it's not too late, and like it'll feel, doing it now is, yeah, I mean, the thing you do now is always better than the thing you're never going to do, right? Like, and so
100%.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I agree so much with you. I Yes. I feel like there's just something about, like, I don't know exactly how old you were when this happened, but like, you know, I was in my mid 20s, I want to say.
Mm,
And I
mm,
feel like my early 20s to mid 20s, I just felt like I was already geriatric, and that like life
mm.
had passed me by, and that I was a failure, and that like there was no time left for me to do absolutely anything. And I was like, it's gone and I wasted it. Ah.
Totally, totally. Yeah, yeah. That's absolutely true. I think I was 28. Yeah, 27, 28 around
Yeah.
then. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And like
So,
now, having learned all that, now you're pursuing it, actively pursuing it, and like
mhm,
sometimes it feels like it's going in the right track, per se, or and
mhm,
sometimes there are like ups and downs to pursuing your own thing. But like, I guess, I'd want to know like what excites you about the future of your own, projects and Liminal
mhm,
House.
mhm. Yeah, I mean, yeah, we haven't even talked about like the projects that we worked on together. through Liminal House. And I think that comes to mind because I think that level, it felt like a little glimpse into what like the future could look like. Like I I would love to just constantly have opportunities where I can build up a team like that. You know, I think at its peak we had like 20 something people
Yeah.
working on these two animated films, and that type of collaboration and just like yeah, I think so much of the time, and yeah, it's definitely a benefit of my skill set where I can sort of like be as small as just me and still
Hmm.
be Liminal House, but like that's not what I want to be doing, you know, forever. And I think
Right.
like now I'm back in this little period where I'm like, well, I've got these little things that are just me, but it's like, oh, I'm hungry for that next big thing where I can like bring people in, and then what does the future look like if that continues to happen and like projects like that continue to come along? Like,
Right.
what does having actual like staff look like having actual like regular people that I'm working with on a regular basis and able to pay well and just like all those things make me very excited. I think I'm constantly having, even as I'm saying it now, I'm constantly having to be like, it's not impossible. It's not impossible
Yeah.
because it's like, it feels, there's a lot of reasons to not be excited about the future in this industry. And I think
Yes.
it's not worth, it's just, it's not worth dwelling on the negatives about what is or isn't possible, what's changing in the industry and stuff. Like I think that can be one of the harder feelings right now, is that like I feel like I'm this young studio still, right? Like
Hmm.
I feel like Liminal House is still a very young studio
Right.
trying to like run into a party or something, and sometimes it feels like everyone in the party is like, oh, this party's dead. Like,
Yeah, like you
we're,
arrive and
we're
everyone's
out the
already like, yeah, we're leaving.
yeah,
Yeah.
like, and everyone's kind of depressed and bleak and like definitely feeling that,
I'm burnt
and
out.
yeah, burned out and stressed. Obviously, like the AI stuff is
Yeah.
the big thing, and that's freaking everyone out. And I think, I don't know, it's just it's uh it's also an exciting time for indie stuff and
Yeah.
indie studios and indie animation. So trying to just focus on that as much as possible, and see where there's just hoping there's like a infinite pie, and
Yeah.
there's the slice of it for
And
for my
honestly,
little studio.
like from my perspective, I think you're in a great position where like you're independent and small enough where you have that flexibility to kind of like contract and expand in regards to like the
Yeah,
amount of people that you work with. And that's not
yeah,
necessarily something that is, I think, a benefit to you for sure. And I've always also imagined that I at some point will be able to have my own animation studio. And the funny thing is like every time I mention that to people who are like my teachers or my mentors, and they're always like, that's really cool. But if you really want to create something, like don't focus so much on being the studio, like the big studio, because then you're gonna be so caught up in like administrative things and like business things that you won't really have the time, or it'll take you really long to create something. And I think maybe you've tapped into like a good place to be with your own
mm,
project where you have that capability of, yes, finding clients and creating things, but
mm.
also being able to explore your own projects and having a fun time with it too.
I completely agree. I think it is. I do think it's a pretty good approach to it, especially if you're someone like yourself who is like technically skilled, right? Like I have these technical abilities. I can make a thing my own, like, or myself.
Hmm.
And so if a client comes and it's a small enough project and I'm not really busy, I can just do that on my own. But then there are. I think what excited me about the projects we got to work on together is that they were so like built on skills I didn't have.
Yeah.
And so it was really exciting to be like bringing in, artists like yourself and being like, okay, like here's the vision. I can't do what you're doing, so like I even need to work with like people like Tati to like help like 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 give guidelines and kind of make things consistent. Like it was, and so I got to use a lot more of my like directorial and like producing kind of like skills
Hmm.
and not so much being like in the weeds of it. And it just got
Right.
me so, yeah, it just got me so excited about that possibility. And of course, yeah, as soon as those projects ended, it's like, God, it'd be awesome to have another lined up. But
Yeah.
we did not. And so we're contracting, and it's,
Yeah.
it's me doing an editing project or
Yeah.
me doing a VFX explosion of a TV for a music video. I'm just doing like these little random little things. And yeah,
Yeah.
it's like that's going to help me, pay rent, but it's not necessarily the long term kind of vision of it. And of what I'd want to be doing. What I dislike about that the most is that there are really awesome people that I collaborate with, like yourself, right? And what I would love, and I love doing that. It's like, okay, on a project, the right thing comes around. Oh, we get to work again and all that. And maybe that's best for everybody. But I always feel like there's this thing, and part this might also come from having been like laid off by this company where they're like, we're all family or
Oh
something. I
yeah.
just really hate the idea of like oh, okay, like we wrap that up. See y'all. Like I've got some work, but y'all don't. Like okay, bye.
Yeah.
like I just that's not how I want this to exist in the long term. And I think it's a long process, kind of steady work and steady things that like mean I can have people just that can rely on it, right? Like, um, but it has to get to a place where I can rely on it consistently
Yeah,
also,
exactly.
and
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 honestly,
things have
like
certainly, yeah.
I feel like everyone in the team and from like spending so much time together, like we see that the intention is always to create that and retain that community. And it's
Mm,
not,
mm,
it does never feel like, oh yeah, well, goodbye. I have my own things and thanks for the help and I'll see you when I see you. Like you still
yeah,
created this space where we can, continue to hang out in sort of like a virtual office slash co-op. And
yeah.
it's nice. It's that maybe it's us trying to find our communities that we never got to create, in school, things like that.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely, it is. And I see that. I see that. I mean, it's what's so great about the name of your podcast, because like our team was so distributed, right? We're
Yeah.
all like in our little different places, and there's some people in the same cities, but no one's seeing each other, and we're all kind of expressing the same feeling, like yeah, like there's no one around me doing what I'm doing, and it's nice to have this community. So yeah, it's like in lieu of having regular paid work, at the very least, we all should. It's good to be staying in touch with other
Yes,
artists and stuff for sure.
exactly.
I wanted to know what you would tell yourself before
Oh,
you ask your
yeah, of
final
course.
question.
Of course. Okay, what would I tell myself? Honestly, I feel like when the pandemic happened, when I decided to become a quote unquote professional artist, I had a very specific idea of what that would look like for me and what kind of life I would have from it. And I feel like I wasn't flexible enough to open myself up to other possibilities. Like, I didn't even think I would be able to study animation after
Mm,
considering becoming a professional artist. Like, and so I think what I would tell myself would be one, yeah, like patience, because you're not gonna die, hopefully, tomorrow. You still have time. Um, and just being kind of like a lot more open, kind, and flexible with how life has kind of like swirled me around and brought me to
yeah.
places and I mean I had my crisis my existential crisis. And
Right.
I was just so sad and so upset and so feeling defeated and alone that I decided to start the podcast.
Mm,
And I
mm,
started the podcast from what I was doing at the time, which was comics. And somehow
yeah.
I became friends with somebody who was friends with Josue, and I talked to
Ah,
them, and
yeah,
then from that I was able to meet you and work with you, and at the same
yeah, yeah.
time, like I had got the opportunity to move to a new country and study animation. And had you told me all those things were gonna happen when I was having my crisis, I would have been like, that's ridiculous. Like my life is over."
Right.
So,
That's great. That's so great. Yeah.
so
It's
I,
so interesting
yeah,
because yeah, no, I love it. I love it. Well, it's just so interesting how this kind of the like you said, the kind of whirlwind that kind of sends you different places. There's so much that you can't predict that you're going to experience, and so like yeah, going with that flow is really important, and being ready to like jump on the next wave or the next opportunity is really important. But there is just that push and pull with like making those conscious choices, right? Because
yeah.
you you still were making this like conscious choice to be an artist and to apply to animation school. And
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know, like
I feel like I was
yeah.
the opposite of you. I was like, I don't want to go with the flow of anything. I want to be the flow. I want to be able to
Be the
like
flow.
control everything. And that's just so silly.
Yeah.
It's so silly in the world of art to expect that you can control anything at all.
Yeah, yeah. That
Um,
that like reminds me of this like this feeling. I mean, because I'm doing a lot of this like I don't want to detour us too much, but I'm
of
just
course.
doing a lot of active Instagram marketing. Like I'm trying to be more active about that and build up the liminal house stuff. And I feel like it's such a fine line between this like grind culture kind of like be the flow. That's what made me think about it. Like where it's like you like make your things happen. And but I think in some ways that happens, but it's like you have to be humble and open to the opportunities that come your way. You can't just be this like force that like makes the world change at your will.
Exactly.
But that's certainly like the energy that like I don't know, I feel gets like put off
You're so
online
accurate
sometimes.
in that observation, because I do think I was very influenced by like people that I was following who were artists who were kind
Mm,
of in that grind, white
yeah.
knuckling mindset. And I think looking back at it now, I realize like I don't think they really, I'm sure they enjoy making their art, but a lot of it was mostly driven by like a business mindset. And I don't think
Mm,
for me, uh that would be fulfilling. Like I would be
yeah.
miserable, and perhaps I could have been successful because I'm good at like consistency and like working really hard, but I would just be
Yeah.
miserable if
Mm,
I
mm,
was trying to approach it that way. And I'm so
yeah.
thankful that I
Yeah.
didn't get the opportunity to even attempt it. It was like
Yeah.
shut down from the
Yeah.
beginning.
Yeah. You by the pandemic?
Yeah,
Is
yeah, like no, you're not.
that- Sorry. Yeah, yeah. You're gonna need to think about your health and your
Exactly.
sanity. Yeah, yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
But
Ugh.
now like that has kind of like played an interesting role in, you know, coming to North America, studying animation, and realizing how much of the arts and the creative professions are influenced by, like liberal capitalism and just this grind
Mm,
culture of like more, 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 fast, fast, fast. And it kind of, I feel that because I am older in pursuing this, I'm less easily persuaded to just kind of like be thrown into that, and
yeah.
kind of question it more and make decisions that hopefully in the future will allow me to live a life where I can make art that is not motivated by that.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
So we'll
Definitely.
see.
No, but it's I think it's really good to just be thinking about that now. I mean, yeah, like there's just so many people I know who did the opposite and are now just dealing with the burnout and aren't thinking, about how to sustainably make art. They're just kind of thinking about, you know, other things, which is great if that's what they need to be doing. But it's like, yeah, I think it's like if you go so hard on one thing, yeah, you might find that art has no place in your life because or the kind of art you were trying to make as a career has no place in your life anymore because you got burned on it,
Yeah.
and now you just want to like grow tomatoes or
Yeah.
something, which is great.
Yeah.
That's, that sounds fun too, but like you can have it all.
That's a major takeaway. It's just you can have it all. Just
Yeah, just like it's what's the other cliche? It's a marathon, right? Not a
yes,
race. Yeah,
yeah. Oh my God, it's so true. It's so true, and it's so annoying too, because like,
Yes.
uh, like enduring
Yeah.
all of it, and especially
Yeah.
like in the last few years, it kind of feels like a marathon, on steroids, but we're still here.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah, yeah. Well, and yeah, maybe the core thing about the capitalist element of it all is how much competition plays the role and how it can just be very very frustrating to have that mindset, especially as we're starting to compete more with like AI and stuff.
yeah,
It's like we're fucked if that's what we're trying to do. Like if that's how we're
yeah,
focusing our art is like compete with some dumb AI thing, then like yeah, we've already lost. So
exactly. I don't think
yeah,
that should be our focus. I'm sure there's
yeah,
people that run marathons just for the fun of suffering, like us. So.
right, 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 right.
All right. Well, now I get to the last and most fun
Hmm,
question. I'm always so curious to know if you could have a magical art power to help you in your artistic process, what would you like that to be?
that's fun. I well, I brought up AI, which
Hmm.
I think is really relevant because I think if you'd asked that question like 3 years ago, I might have just said a bunch of things that like oh, I just want to be able to make the coolest VFX like that, I just want to be able to do this thing like that, or like oh, I wish there was some way I could just like have all my work get done for me. So I think we've now seen that we all have access to these terrible superpowers. That I'm not trying to overstate the quality of the output here, but the
Yeah.
level of advancement is pretty terrifying. Um, so it kind of I don't know. It brings it puts into perspective like what we're doing, like what is the process that we're doing. Because I think a lot of times my brain, I'm very technically minded, so a lot of times the art for me is like the technical side of it, and
Right.
I think it kind of forces you to think about the like if you have all those tools and you could just make whatever you want, why would you choose to still make it like the other way, right? And I think like yeah, I think there is just like a real joy in the craft, and so the
I actually
superpower.
love that you're taking your time to think about this and like almost having a philosophical
Sorry,
but
sorry.
no, I honestly I think that's wonderful. That I think this is one of the first times that somebody has actually like sat down and like thought about like, okay, what are the impacts of a magical art power? Because no, because it's
Yeah.
so true. Like
Well, I mean, yeah, like I think I do think my impulse would have been just like very, technically minded, and I think it changes the my perspective a little bit, and
Mhm.
so now I almost yeah, it's like every answer is like annoying me. I'm like, because like I would want like pinpointing, and all of this is frustrating. The reason it's all annoying me is that the process, as I think we all grow as artists, I think we come to value the process, like the thing that
Yeah.
took a while. Oh, before we made the thing good, why do we do this? It's like we come to value that process and like the journey of getting there. And so I'm thinking about story is kind of
Hmm.
where I'm like leaning for this power. And maybe, yeah, I mean, also AI could probably do this too. This is the worst. And I'm sorry, I think I'm giving the worst answer.
No, no, not at all. I disagree.
It's that maybe the yeah, I mean the I think finding yeah, I think maybe the power of like finding the best stories, like quickly. Like I don't know
Yeah,
if it's like pinpointing how to tell the story. That's the process I enjoy. But like if the power was like oh here and boom I've got this whole story now and like that's the one to tell like for sure.
yeah.
I think maybe that might be the
Like
superpower I
knowing
would
how to
choose.
discern which story is the one to like
Yes,
tackle.
yes,
Yeah,
yes.
that would
Because
be
the work
good.
we do is tedious, and I
Yeah.
think, I think sometimes you can be doing very tedious hard work on stories that aren't worth telling. And
Yeah.
I think that I maybe I it's not the best way to think about things, but whenever I'm watching stuff, it's that's often the kind of like base thought is just like where like the base level thought is like is this a story that's worth being told and worth putting all this energy into.
For
So
sure.
yeah, I
Yeah.
don't know.
That's actually I think that's a good thing because, time is limited. So if you could make that process efficient enough so that you could spend all the time and effort of the tedious process into doing the story that you already know it's worth telling, then
Yeah,
that is that is helpful. Though I would say you could still go into a philosophical debate on this because like what decides what's a good story?
I know.
Okay,
I
I'm
know. Well, and it can't be me. It can't be me.
yeah,
This is why I want the superpower.
yeah,
The
exactly. It has
power
to be
does
like
it.
some unbiased,
Yes, yes,
like yeah, for sure. I think if I
exactly.
was like more film inclined, which I'm not opposed to that. I feel like maybe I don't have the technical skills for film, but if
Hmm.
I was film inclined and if I was you, I would do like I would like my eyes to be my camera, so I didn't have to have equipment on me, you know?
Oh,
Like something more
wow.
fantastical.
Wow. Yeah, okay, okay.
So you could just record
What's a
like
better one? Can we start over? I'll say this. I'm gonna steal yours. I love that. I love that. That's great. That's
like
great.
imagine if you could like mentally send that signal to your eyes and be like, okay, now we're recording. And you just record
Yeah,
from your
yeah.
eyes.
It's
So
pretty cool.
that would be cool.
Technologically speaking, though, at some point we won't be too far from that, right? Like
That
we'll
is
have we'll
true.
have like 24K lenses in our little Apple glasses or whatever,
Yeah.
and it'll come with facial recognition, so we can like dox people right away. It's gonna be amazing. We're gonna
Yeah.
be in such a great universe. No, I love that. I love that. I think, yeah, that's a good one. Oh, I guess until you brought up actual cameras and filming, I was just thinking about, and so I think now I understand the context. You were just saying if you were more film inclined, and I was
Yeah,
just gonna say like animation. I feel like is just another version of that, stuff.
for
So,
sure.
but I see what you mean now.
I actually
Okay.
took, so before I went into anything really, I I took like a few months to take a course on pre-production, production, and post-production in film. And I remember thinking like, oh my God, all the equipment that you need and like so it's like but
Yeah,
I
it's
see how like cool it is. I just think like maybe for my brain it wasn't as stimulating to like worry about, lenses and like
yeah,
lights and recording
yeah,
spaces and all that technical stuff that
yeah.
is required that you don't think about. But yeah,
Right,
but
right.
we have you for
That's where
that.
all that yeah, well, and that's where all the good collaboration comes from because like I think for future projects, if I have the budget, I want to be working with like other, cinematographers and like just kind of getting to kind of explore how the work changes when you're working with those people. And I think like VFX and animation is such a focus for my work. It's like I think having other people tackle the film side of things, I think would then impact the way the the visual effects type stuff is looking as well. So I don't know. I'm just rambling now.
All right.
We ended
Well,
a little while ago.